life will always offer you two options, whether to sink or to swim. Which would you choose? I remember many years ago listening to this story about two mice that fell into a bucket of cream. The first mice, looking down at the situation, cried out, said, "There is no hope." That mice drowned and died. The second mice looked at his colleague that was already dead and said, "I can change my story. I don't have to drown." He started to swim and churn that cream into butter and climbed out of the bucket, scampered off to safety. This story is very relatable for me for many reasons. I remember on this day, my wife and I sat across this doctor who was giving us feedback on his review of our results. He said to us, "Both of you cannot have a child without corrective surgery. I'm so sorry." Wife and I looked at ourselves, looked back at the doctor, and said, "Thank you, sir." When we stepped out of the hospital on that day, we made a resolve to change our own story, to create the story that we wanted, which was to have children without the major corrective surgery that he recommended. For us to achieve that, we knew that the very first place to start was to be positive-minded. Being positive-minded at that time was extremely important because, as you may well know, for someone or a couple in that situation, we had friends, foes, family who had inundated us with all kinds of information. Some had told us about this family who just didn't make it out because they didn't take advice. They told us about another family who were in our situation and theirs even went from bad to worse. Maybe one of them even passed out of depression, and on. The sorry stories didn't end. So for us, we had to preserve our mental state and decide the kind of information we allowed to filter through to us by being positive-minded. That was the first step for us. Now, beyond being positive-minded, we also knew that to be patient. Being from the kind of culture that we were from, there was already artificial pressure for children. At that time, we're already 3 years married, and people started to ask, even though our parents didn't put so much pressure, but those family members, those friends, those acquaintances started to ask, "Are you guys deciding to hold on for a while?" Seemingly well-meaning question, but each of those questions literally stuck an arrow in our chest per time. We had to say, we will be patient. No matter what pressure we faced, we will be patient. We would not allow ourselves to get overrun, because traditionally when people get in a hurry, you can trip over, make costly mistakes. So we had to be patient. And by being patient, what we did was to pursue our goal for having children. And by pursuing, we took necessary action. We saw specialists. We took advice, tips, and tricks from those who had been through similar circumstances and overcome. We decided to start applying some of the great advice, counsel that we were receiving. Things like checking the calendar, knowing what time to try, what time not to try, knowing the kind of mood to be in, and all of those beautiful things that we did. For us, we understood that without pursuing that goal, nothing was going to happen. Unlike most people who say they want to achieve a dream, a goal, and they just sit back and expect it to fall on them, we said, no, we know this would require movement. So we took necessary action. Casting my mind back, I can tell you, in a month from now, my wife and I will be married for 10 years. It was the fact that we were willing to be positive-minded, patient, and pursue our desire for children that has led to us being here at this point where now we have a boy and a girl, we have 2 children, and it's been an experience worth sharing, especially because people have struggled with all kinds of pain, failure, and loss, and have gone from that state downhill. Rather than sink, we believe that everyone can swim. And the choice is usually yours. If you will decide to be positive-minded, be patient, and pursue that desire, that dream with determination, it will inevitably become your reality. Let me remind everyone once again that life would always give you 2 options, whether to sink or to swim. The choice is always yours.